Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. With me on the show this week is Serena Rose, a returning guest, friend of the show. Serena is a sex, love, dating, and relationships coach. She's also newly divorced. We're going to dive into what happened in the relationship and in the marriage to lead to the divorce, the pain that comes along with divorce, why so many people are divorced. We talk about ethical non-monogamy a little bit in this episode, and also like the importance of getting out there and having a hot girl summer after you've been divorced for a month, a year, 10 years, whatever. She gives some incredible advice on how to handle all of it. She talks about what she's going through. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Serena Rose.
This week's conversation.
Serena Rose, welcome back to Sex Party. This has been a long time coming. I'm excited to have you here. The audience will know, oh, when he says he's excited, he means it, because I do. So I'm super happy to have you back on the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing very well. I am loving life these days. It's my first summer single since getting a divorce, which maybe we'll just jump right in there into the divorce train. But I am happy to be here too. And I so loved our previous conversation, and I look forward to today.
Yeah, no, I did too. And people can go back and watch that episode. Maybe I'll link it. Maybe I won't. Who knows? Am I feeling
Such a tease.
Productive that day that I'm editing this? Or am I feeling lazy? Lazy really isn't my speed. So there's a tease for you all. But in our original conversation, yeah, I think that was early on. I think in the 20s of Sex Party. This is episode 74, which is absolutely fucking mind-blowing for me. But your episode was one of the first moments where I was actually riding a bike summertime last year, downtown Chicago, which is its own little vibe. Like, you're on a bicycle, everyone's trying to get to their designated place to guzzle beer and pizza, and you're like whizzing around on a bike. So it's already dangerous. And I had this thought, oh my God, she was telling me about this abuse that she had suffered not once, but twice in her life. And yet we were like giggling and laughing and like having fun with like culture and the world and each other. And to me, it was like, oh my God, maybe I can do this. And I like immediately ran a red light like on the bicycle because I'm in my head and like, meow, like, okay. So your episode was a moment for me personally. And I've been dying to have you back ever since. And I'm glad that you are here. Single summer, the divorce train. Okay. I love that you said the divorce train, because the fucking divorce train is real. How long were you married? Let's start there.
Almost 2 years. We didn't quite make it there. And to be honest, the last year of our marriage was really challenging. I was very devoted to making it work. However, in any relationship, be it marriage or dating, both parties need to be willing to and desire to make things work and to work on things together. And unfortunately, I wasn't really met by him in that. He refused to go to therapy and counseling or hire a coach. And eventually I got him to agree to have mediators come in, some of our closest friends that we trusted to be unbiased. And even then it was like pulling teeth, and I don't even like saying this. It just sounds so horrible. But he's a good person. He's a really good person, and he has his own things that he's processing. And this was just our path, and we walked it. And I am walking into my first hot girl summer now. So this is where we're at.
Well, I think it's an amazing time to have a hot girl summer. You know, a lot of even though like, Russia is still buzzing around with drones and all of the weirdness, and the robots are coming, it looks like they're going to have a crazy political season, all of those things, right? But running alongside of that is kind of like this, dare I say, post pandemic wild ass summer with a lot of good concerts. The drinks will flow, yada yada yada. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Because
Thank you.
what could you do? But like sometimes in the darkest times, but like crack a fucking beverage of your choice. In my case, it would be Tito's, and or some tequila, and like just kind of ride the wave, man. And
yeah.
And you deal with this kind of stuff in your coaching, and I love the way that you approach sort of love and sex and dating and relationships. And so I guess my question would be, when did you see the first signs, with all of your knowledge, right? When did you see the first signs? Because you can get tunnel vision. Like I help people market social media, yada yada. But then for my stuff, I'm like, oh, I'm blind. Wait, I should have thought of that. So did you have a blind spot because you're so good at what you do with your own relationship, or did it help you see sooner that there were some issues?
I would say more that I had a blind spot because of what I do. I was doing my best to, I'm going to use quotes for those who aren't seeing the video, to be conscious and do things in the right way, and really exhausting all of the resources that I had. But at the same time, being a sex, love, dating, and relationships coach and going through that experience, I had a lot of affirmation throughout the process by my team, by my bosses at Sex and Love Co., Jordan and Alexa. They changed the game for relationships and are a beautiful representation of what things can look like and what is available in love. And I didn't know if our challenges were going to be something that shaped me in that way to be better and to grow with him and in my ability to hold space for all of it, like the challenges, the pain, the struggles, or if it was going to be something that inevitably led to us parting ways. And that is what happened. And I'm okay with it, honestly. I'm not going to say it's been easy. And there have been moments where I have caught myself, okay, I'm drinking a little bit more than I would like to, or, coping with the pain. But as much as we are spiritual, awakened beings, we're also fucking human, and we get to have human moments and human experiences. And so I got to process, maybe shame that I was feeling in my pain and how I was dealing with it, and come through to the other side. And I'm in a really good place right now, and I love sharing about my experiences. And part of why I said the divorce train is because I share pretty openly on my social media about my emotions and what I'm experiencing. And so many people have reached out and said, thank you. Thank you for sharing this. I feel less alone, and it's so real and so relevant to what I'm going through. And so that's my why, and why I'm willing to be such an open book, because I don't want people to feel alone. And in divorce, your whole fucking world is getting turned upside down, literally. And people would ask me, what's next? What are you going to do next? And I'm like, I just spent the last few years of my life planning a future with my husband, and I have no answers right now. Like, I have no goals of my own, no answers of my own. And I'm still figuring that out. I'm still figuring out what is next for me. What do I want now? What do I want in my next partner? And what are my personal goals now that I'm not creating and building this life with my ex-husband anymore?
Yeah, the divorce train runs fast and it runs deep through everyone's relationships. At least, so all of my friends, I would say, I've given this statistic, and whatever, this might be wrong. Somebody fact check me, I dare you. But I would say out of 30 couples, right, that I know, like high school, college, nightlife, all of us, if I merged my whole sphere of married people or once married people, out of 30 couples, I would say 26 of them are now divorced with an average run time of 5 years, but only 5 because they're in Ohio, right? Right. And then those 4 couples that are remaining, and I'm not saying any facts for those people who are listening, but like, maybe check in with your partner. Out of those 4, I'm pretty sure all 4 are a few are on the verge of divorce and a few are cheating on each other. Like, not saying any names, y'all, like figure it out, but that's the divorce train for you, right? And so before we jump into your stuff a little more personal, it's a big question. Why do you think, right, if you want to just name some general stuff, why do you think is it that people are rushing to get married to check a box? Is that the main issue? Or is that people spend time with each other and they realize, oh shit, like this guy's a fucking doofus. Like I can't do this. Or like what is it specifically that you think that the divorce train is so loaded right now?
Well, speaking from my own personal experience, we were actually a COVID couple. So we got together right in the beginning of everything with COVID. And I've noticed a lot of couples that got together during that time or married during that time are now getting divorced. And I don't really know the psychographics or demographics or statistics that are related to that, but it's a pattern that I'm noticing that I find really, really interesting. Being one of them myself, I'm like, okay, what the fuck just happened? Collectively, we experienced a trauma, a global trauma. That's what COVID was. And so we're going to be studying it for years. And this is just one of the parts and pieces of that trauma and how it impacted us collectively. And generally speaking, we live in a world with swiping and dating apps and moving so quickly with rat race mentality. And there's always something better. And we're striving to continue to grow, to be better, to be the best. And so that is the general culture that we live in. And so I think people are just not as committed and devoted as maybe they once were. And historically speaking, people didn't live as long as we do now. So getting married at a younger age wasn't as much of a lifelong emphasis on the long commitment as it is now. Now we're living into 80s and 90s, and making that commitment to be with someone for life is much different now than it was, turning pages back into our history books. And so those things combined, it's easy. And falling in love is really easy to do. It's so easy to do. Dating is easy to do. Don't hate me for that. I actually love dating, which I'm sure we'll talk about as the show continues. But dating and falling in love is so easy. What is actually more challenging is staying committed and devoted and moving through challenges together. So I think it's all of that combined and people just not being as committed.
Well, and also the thing that's interesting that I'm seeing, and I'm sure you're seeing too, obviously in your work, is that what's running alongside of all of this divorce rate stuff is that there's like more of an acceptance kind of, or more of an emergence of like open relationships, non-monogamy, monogamish sort of things. And so I'm wondering, because that's a big ball of wax, like kind of like to get into, but it does, that is a big clue, like that people, it's not necessarily that you don't love and want to be with the person that you have married, right? But sometimes you just need like to get some different dick. Sometimes you just need to get some different pussy, whatever your thing is. Maybe you need to get both, right? And that need sometimes is looked at from a partner as like a disrespectful, you're disgusting, how dare you sort of thing. So there is that. And again, I'm just generalizing, like the fucking podcast idiot host with the mentality just to get it out there on the table. But now it's there and we can dissect it in a smarter way. So I wonder, was your relationship monogamous? Was it sort of, did you guys test those boundaries, or like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So this ball of wax was very relevant in my marriage. So one of the things that attracted me to him as a life partner is I thought that we were on the same page when it comes to opening our relationship and practicing ethical non-monogamy. And it turns out that we were not. And I think he discovered things about himself along the way. And I don't even know if he's fully accepted these things about himself now today, but I don't want to coach him or like look at him through those eyes, but I will share what I learned and what I witnessed through my own experience. So we both were attracted to ethical non-monogamy, and the foundation of that is ethics. It's being honest, being in integrity. And throughout our time together, that was the opposite of what happened. So I found him in number of lies, mostly pertaining to him spending time with other women, who he was with, where he was with. And he also opened up online dating accounts that I had discovered. I just so happened to find them. I wasn't like looking for them. And so my trust was broken, and he felt this urge to experience other women and to experience literally just having an open relationship. I think his primary desire was to have an open relationship where he could do whatever he wanted with whoever he wanted. And I am open to that if the trust is there, if those foundational elements are there. And because my trust was broken, I was wanting to work on that. And there was one woman in particular that he wanted to date, and that towards the end of our time together, he told me that he had fallen in love with her. And I was open to them dating in the future once our trust was rebuilt, but that wasn't enough. And so inevitably, that was the downfall of our marriage.
Okay. Well, first of all, sorry to hear about the betrayal, because that always sucks. That's always a zinger. It's like, oh fuck, this really hurts on a level that I wasn't expecting, right? Because that's what gets you.
And it was so confusing for me too, because I am a pretty honest and open person, and I wasn't lying, and I'm not lying when I say that I'm genuinely open to exploring those things. And I even have my own desires to practice ethical non-monogamy, though that might be changing based on this past experience that I just had. I'm still figuring out who I am and what I want next. But I still to this day am like, fuck, if he just stopped lying, then things could have looked differently or played out differently. And for him, it was he had never been in a conscious relationship where he could be truthful about his desires and be truthful about, where he was spending his time and all of those things. And so I understood that, and I did my best to have compassion and patience. And like I said, I was trying to be conscious and like handle everything in the conscious way. And I think that was a blind spot for me, because looking back, I'm like, it was not okay. He just kept fucking lying. Like, that's not okay. I needed to have better boundaries, and I didn't.
That's so interesting. You said so much stuff that is like really incredibly interesting, and we're gonna try to pull some of that apart. But first, so when you went into this relationship, marriage, how long were you guys together? How long did you guys date before you got married?
We dated for a little over a year before we got married.
Okay, and then you were married, you said just shy of 2 years or just over?
Yeah, not quite 2 years.
Okay. And so during that time, those times, did you guys had was it that you were having talks like, well, one day perhaps we'll have a threesome or we'll date other people or whatever, but there was never anything definitive? Or were there definitive like boundaries and rules? Like, okay, we're going to be, ethically non-monogamous in this way. And he broke that. Which was it?
And we're really getting into the tea now. So
Yeah.
there's so much, there's so much that happened. Ugh, this is good. This is good to talk about this and air it out.
So if you feel uncomfortable at any moment, you can just like wave the white flag and we'll move topics, but that's totally up to you.
No, I'm good. I'm ready. So basically, we had lots of conversations about different experiences, and we even curated some experiences. Like we would go to swingers clubs and have sexy parties that we would host and push those edges and discover things about ourselves and each other that maybe we didn't know before. So we were experimenting and exploring actively and having, like I said, a lot of conversations about what we wanted. And what ended up happening is the things that my nervous system felt safe with and I felt comfortable in doing, we would agree, okay, we're going to pursue that. We're going to go this route for now and check that out, push those edges. And then the next step would be this. And so we would have things outlined, but what would happen is that instead of focusing on the things that I was okay with, he would focus on the things that he wanted that I wasn't okay with. So it was me never meeting his sexual needs, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I would call back and say, well, what about this thing that we both agreed to do? Like, why can't we explore that and do that? But for him, he was focused on more of the negative aspects of everything. And that's his karma and his journey and his stuff to unpack. And that played its role in the downfall of everything. And I would try to have conversations with him about it. And here we are, divorced. And I hope that he is happy and dating lots of people.
Right. Okay. So when you say, so it's what it sounds like is you guys were like, we both kind of want other things physically, sexually, maybe emotionally. Right. But we don't want to lose each other. Therefore, instead of just having a trillion conversations and going in different directions, let's stay together as a team, go to the swinger parties. Were you guys then swinging? Were you guys like swapping with other people or just watching, or like, was it tiptoeing in, or did you go full in, or?
It was definitely tiptoeing. So we were involved in like an orgy experience in one of the sex rooms. But before we would go, each time before we went, we would set boundaries and name desires. Like, I would be really, really happy if this happened and this happened. And this is a boundary for me tonight. And so every time we would meet the desires that we had set out, but we didn't actually swap partners with anyone. And more so that is on me because I like to practice safe sex. And yes, there are condoms, but I would prefer to have conversations with people before just doing that. And in the heat of the moment and in those experiences, that doesn't always happen, and that's okay. But it's not something that I was really open to without having those conversations first.
Yeah. Okay. So you're on, or what you think is you're on this team, and you're like, well, we can explore these things together, right? And then you go, and you're not really like jumping in the orgy. Hey, everybody, I'm open, right? Right? Or he's open, right? But you kind of like, you guys do your thing within the sex room, and it's hot to have other people watch you. Is that pretty much? Am I nailing it? Kind of.
Yes. And okay. I would play with women a lot when I would go to the sex clubs. Okay. So, and he liked that, and he was happy with that.
Sure. And that was something you were into, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, did you guys push the envelope further and it started to get uncomfortable, or did you stay within that, hey, we're a team bubble until he's like, well, this just isn't working for me? And like, you're like, wait a minute, I thought we were on a team in the trust tree in the bubble. What's going on?
Yeah, so there was actually a particular evening where we got into an argument at the swingers club, and literally we never went back after having that argument. So he was getting attention from a woman, and I loved it. And I was giving him space. I was like, you guys talk, communicate, flirt, like whatever you want to do, I'm here for it. And he I would come around and like want to join in the conversation, and he took that the wrong way as me being jealous, and I was actually intentionally giving him space to communicate with her and spend time with her. But at this club you can't just be a single man walking around, you have to always be with a partner. That's just one of the rules of this club.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't go far because them's the rules, so I didn't go far.
Don't break the
But
sex club rules, man.
yeah, you'll get thrown out and
Uh-huh.
not invited back in for sure. So, but I wasn't jealous. No part of me was jealous. I was actually really happy for him. I'm like, yes, get those desires met, baby. Like, do what you need to do. And he reacted poorly, and we got in a huge fight about it. And literally, we just never went back.
Okay, so before we move on with your story, how many people do you think get into like blowout fights with their partner at sex clubs, at swingers clubs? It has to be like somewhat high, because that jealousy, people think that they're ready, and then they go and it's like, oh shit, I'm not ready. Get the fuck off. I just feel like that happens quite a bit, and there's probably like a special security team that knows what to look for in the body language or whatever. But is that something you think is probably pretty common, or no?
I think people who explore ethical non-monogamy or swinging or are in this lifestyle, they have to have conversations about
Mm,
being jealous and have a game plan of a safe word, or, this is our plan of how we're going to react to this. And he didn't follow the plan. Like I said the safe word and it was a disaster. And that can happen sometimes.
right.
I also think it depends on the culture of the individual sex clubs and swinging clubs that you're going to, because this one is very laid back. There's host couples, so people that have been coming there for a really long time that, are there kind of working slash volunteering and supporting people, be it emotionally or physically or whatever it is that they need. So every club is set up differently. I've never seen anyone get in a fight at any of the times that I've been. I've never seen that. I've never witnessed it firsthand. I
Mhm.
just have my own personal firsthand experience with it, but I'm sure that it happens, and it just depends on, how everything is structured leading up to it, during and after.
Yeah, because I think again, especially lately in season 2 of this show, we are really getting into and exploring um, uh, not only non-monogamy, right, but also the idea that these things have to be boundaried, and you have to have a ton of conversations, almost like an exhaustive amount of conversations, if you're going to open your relationship on any level. If you're going to
Mhm.
have a threesome, if you're going to watch your partner, whatever it is. I think, and there's been some profound things said. The most profound, I think, is that you're still going to get jealous and envious, and you just have
Mhm.
to know why am I feeling jealous and envious, right? And B, what am I going to do with it? And I think that is like so game changing. So, if you play by those rules, I think there's a higher level of success. But I think people underestimate, especially the dudes, like, oh, I just want to bring in the chick from that I work with at the office, or maybe one of her friend or her sister, or like whatever. Right? It's just
Mhm.
unrealistic shit. And it's like that, dude, like the strings that come with that, right? Number one, and number two, like, you don't want, the last thing you would want is like, someone yelling bananas, the safe word, at you or whatever, and you're like you're like really into it and don't want to stop, and then it causes that fight. And so
Mhm.
that's why I asked that question. To jump back to your story, so you guys get in this fight, you leave, you don't go back, and then does he immediately start bringing up, well, you cock blocked me at the at the sex club, and like the sort of like the arguments regularly start up about his needs not being met, then is that where
Yep. You nailed it.
Yep, bullseye. Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
You got it.
so when that takes over, when it's all about the like and I'm not trying to be a dick, but like the me shit, the poor me shit, right? When that takes over, I said it, she did not, for the record. Does obviously then you're like, fuck, there's a problem here. And then that takes away from you guys exploring things, I would imagine, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, because I don't feel safe to explore because of his reaction and how he reacted. So there was a lot of my personal safety getting in the way. And again, I'm using quotes because that's not how it should be viewed. It's not, if someone doesn't feel safe, that's not getting in the way, especially when you're fucking married and you're in a partnership. Instead, it's okay, you don't feel safe. What do you need? How do we make sure that you feel safe so that we can open these doors and continue to explore? And that was not what happened, unfortunately. Like, I did everything that I could do to nurture my own nervous system. Even before we would engage intimately together, we were still having sex up until the week that we separated, because I was still trying. I was still devoted and wanting to make things work with him. And he was saying that he wanted that too, but he would go back and forth. And inevitably, he's the one that chose divorce and filed the paperwork and all of that shit. But I would do whatever I needed to do to take care of my body and my needs so that I could show up to the best of my abilities. And again, that was my own conscious way of doing things that I think really got in my way of what needed to happen, was us going our separate ways.
So you held out because you're a thoughtful person, because you're smart, because you have all this emotional and sexual and just like, you know, maybe spiritual training, right? And that's who you are as a person. That actually hindered you because it gave you that tunnel vision, and you were unable to see like the unmistakable, like big dark truth that was like, you know, it wasn't going to get out of the way for any of the things that you believe in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have said since then, like, I wish one of my friends just shook me and was like, what are you doing? But I surround myself with people that support me and love me and will hold me no matter what I'm going through. And that's not who they are. Like, it's my path to walk, my lessons to learn, and they're going to be there for me and support me along the way for sure. But yeah, I definitely got in my own way.
I mean, we all do, and blind spots. There is no larger blind spot than a relationship, an intimate relationship. You don't want to believe that this is happening to the person that you picked, and all of those things. But you also brought up an amazing point. I mean, what role do the friends play, right? Because I'm at an age now where I told my best friend at the altar, like Wedding Crasher style, in his ear, don't do this. I left the back door open. I will take you. We will go. There's a car waiting. That was me, right? And he's like giggled it off, but it was true. Yeah, I had somebody who was not invited to the wedding sit outside in the car because I was gonna give him one last chance. And lo and behold, I'm not naming names, but 7 years later, and a plethora of children later, this guy's got half his stuff is gone. She's with some other guy, and it just did not work out. Like, and so you said that, you know, and you know, friends are like, I got your back, whether you get back with her or not. I dated someone where the relationship was so toxic, and I'm not. It's not her fault. It's whatever. But it was just, we just didn't belong together. That I started to have like people that were my friends for 15, 20, 25 years tell me, I can't hang out with you until you end that relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we do also subscribe to this thing where it's like, you got to back your homie, you got to back your girl, whatever she decides, you kind of got to have her back. It's her life. But I mean, in this day and age, with everything I just said, maybe I'm a lunatic asshole, fine. But what role does the friend play in terms of like, hey, I'm gonna give it to you real one time, or like, because you said you wish someone shook you. Shit, I mean, my friends were trying to shake me and I couldn't see it, right? And so I think it's interesting to kind of like really dive in on that point, because I think maybe, and you can rebuff me, but maybe friends have a larger role than we think they should.
Yeah, I mean, after the divorce ball started rolling, so many of my friends, and I was shocked by it, said, well, I knew it wasn't going to last, or I never liked him, or, and like you, I'm not going to name names, but there was even one of his friends at our wedding that made a comment to one of my friends after we got married. And it was, I cannot believe that Serena married him. He treats women like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone to have that in their mind, like at my wedding, and say that to one of my friends is just, it's shocking. And so, in terms of friendships and the roles that people play in our lives, like we're all connected and we're all here for a reason. And every friendship, just like every relationship, is going to look different. So you get to ask yourself, what kind of friends do you want? And for me, I want friends that are going to be really, really honest with me. And my friends were honest with me. I did have a couple of friends, maybe under 5, that said, I think divorce is the next step. I think it's time. And they wouldn't tell me like divorce his ass, like leave him, like kick him out. Well, actually, no, there were people that said kick him out and stuff, um, but we get to decide what kind of friends we need or want, just like we get to decide the kind of relationship that we need or want. Ethical non-monogamy isn't for everybody. Divorce isn't for everybody. Even dating isn't for everybody. So we get to ask those hard questions to ourselves. And then as a friend, I have a friend right now who's in a really toxic relationship, and it hurts me. And I'm starting to get to the point where I might need to put up boundaries for myself and for my own well-being, and that's okay. So we get to decide the roles that we play and subscribe to, and that's the beautiful part of living this life and exploring relationships and learning from one another.
So so you're saying it's like there's a gauge. You have to sort of gauge as a friend and as someone in a relationship, like what kind of friends you want, but also like what kind of friend you want to be. So like maybe like setting up the person's terrible partner for like some crime they didn't commit. Maybe that's just too far to get them out of the relationship, right? Like, I mean, because there's some it too, because there's some relationships out there like that's gonna end in a gas station standoff. That's not good at all, like whatever. And to sit by and watch and lose that friendship and then have the person come back around in a cast or something like, well, yeah, I wish I would have listened to you, like that's hard. This very, very hard. And that's, and I joke about the wedding I tried to stop, but like that sucks, like, and we talk about it. He's like, man, if I just would have listened to you. I'm like, dude, fuck, don't say that. That makes me feel worse, So this is something that I'm glad that we're exploring, because I think there are people who have your best interest at heart. They know you better and in certain aspects outside of your own tunnel vision than you know yourself. And they're trying to warn you, right? And then you don't take that warning because you're in love or whatever it is. And it blinds all. So I think it's really important to have that conversation. To jump back to, go ahead.
Well, it may not even be love. We are humans doing our best to live life with unresolved trauma. And it may be love, quote unquote, but it also could be pain or a question of self-worth or whatever it is for the individual that's subscribing to the toxic relationship. So maybe it's love, maybe it's them living out whatever story they truly believe deep down about themselves. And that's why we need friends. That's why we need tribe. We're tribal beings. We need people to reflect connect things to us that we may be seeing, we may be missing in our blind spots. And so, and we get to trust certain people and subscribe to trust them, like there might be friends in my life that said, leave his ass. And I was like, I don't really like trust that advice from you, because we don't have that kind of dynamic where I'm choosing to really trust that person. But then there were people who said that to me, and I was like, fuck, maybe I do need to do that and think about this differently. And what am I missing, And yeah, I think I remember going on a walk and talking on the phone with one of my friends. And I was like, bro, I just need you to be real. Like, just be real with me. Like, option A, divorce. Option B, keep fighting for therapy and whatever. And I was having this whole moral dilemma because I married him. And I didn't want to give up on that. I'm a woman of my word. I'm a woman of integrity. So I was having my own dilemmas with all of that. And he kept it real with me. And he was like, yeah, I think you should divorce him. Mm-hmm. And I trusted that because I know that I can. And we have that kind of relationship and friendship.
Yeah, you almost need to separate like the cutthroat friend. You need to be like, okay, he or she is the one that will tell me what's up, and then when you're ready for the what's up, then you go get that, right? I think that's great advice, because otherwise, there's a bunch of people at your engagement party, and with presents, and oh my god, I'm so happy. No, they're not. They're like, this is doomed, and some of them unfortunately aren't going to say that because they don't think that they can, or they like are going to enjoy watching, whatever. This is me just projecting all my negative shit, but like, that's true that not everyone is going to stand up for you and give you the hard truth, right? Because people just don't think it's their job. But you find that cutthroat friend, and anybody out there, I will be your cutthroat friend. Just present your thing, and I'll tell you what I think you should do. Because I'm an insanely pragmatic person, but I didn't get here without a whole host of failed relationships and all sorts of things. So I think that's a great way to cap that piece of the interview off on the friend thing, is like, find someone who will tell you the fucking truth with a knife,
Yeah. And I think it's important to call back to something I said earlier, which is, identify what you desire. Like, what you desire as an individual, to keep fighting, to divorce, like, figure it out for yourself and accept those reflections. But at the same time, both parties need to be willing and desiring for it to work. And that is so important, because you can't just be out there on the battlefield fighting nothing, like, if otherwise there's no fight, there's no drive, there's no push towards something. So just whoever's experiencing maybe a relationship in question, be it marriage or not, both parties need to be willing. And that's a very hard truth to accept. But it is definitely true.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. And I think it's important now we're going to go back into your timeline, into your story. But I mean, everything we just said I think everything you just said is incredibly valuable. Everything I just said is probably lunatic fringe, but whatever. No, there's no difference. It happens every week, people. But I love what you said about all of that. And so here we are at this place. You have the weird kind of strange argument at the sex club swingers party, and then from there there's a difference. You guys are still having sex and still trying to work on things, or so you think, right? So what did he then go and just like start the dating apps up and all the stuff? Like, what kind of stuff was he doing? Do you think it was right away? Was he doing it even before?
The dating apps were before the swingers club argument. That was actually something I discovered a few months into our marriage, and he had been on them since 2 weeks after we got married. And that was really the knife that hit my heart. There was 2 weeks after we got married, he's joining dating apps. And the crazy thing about all of it is, if he would have just come to me and said, I want to flirt with women online, I'm not going to meet them. I want to, are you okay with this? I would have said, yeah, like, and I want to be a part of it. Like, if there's a cute girl on there, like, let's, do that together. And that was one of the things that I was comfortable with that we never actually fucking explored. And I'm confused at how things happened the way that they did. And I also trust it because that's where we're at. And so I get to trust and surrender completely. But I wanted to explore dating other people and do it together, or have him, be the captain of the ship and like be the one on the dating apps, but also pull me in. And we never actually did that. And I mean, I'm grateful for all of those experiences because it's helped shape me as a lover, as a friend, and, as a woman and as a coach too.
Yeah, I mean, it's I can't honestly, like, can't wait to see. And this might sound weird, but I can't wait to see what you do with it, with all of this, because I just think that you're already someone who's incredibly, like, advanced. You're already someone who's gone through more than the average person has gone through, like, with your abuse, and you're already, like, doing all this, like, insanely profound work, and now this thing happens to you. Come on, like, that's where, like, true greatness comes from. It takes that, like, part of the movie where it's like, fuck, and, like,
Mm-hmm.
so we've arrived there, and then now you get to take that and put that shit in the tank when you're ready, after you process and use it as fuel. So I can't wait to see what you do with that. Like, and that sounds like probably weird, but I mean it as like a positive thing.
Yeah, no, I receive it, and I receive it as a loving compliment. So thank you.
Totally. That's exactly what I meant by it. So how did you discover he was on dating apps? You left his phone out, you hacked it, like.
hmm So we had just moved into our apartment together, and, I work from home. I'm a coach, and we had just gotten the internet set up, and it wasn't working on my computer. It wasn't working on my phone. So I opened up his laptop to see if it was working on his laptop for some reason. I don't know. I was just like, let me cover all my bases. I had a call coming up. And when I opened up his screen, his email was up, and I just looked at it out of the side vision of my eye because I was focused on the internet connection, but his email was right there. And it was like Tinder, there were multiple dating apps. I think, I can't remember which ones right now, but Tinder was one of them. And then there was another one, OK Cupid, I think is what it was. And I thought in my head, no fucking way. And so then I opened it. Then I opened the email that was right there at my fingertips and opened up all the apps, and they were all logged in. And, then I deep dived because I was already in it. So
And how deep, what did the rabbit hole go?
I just wanted to know how long he had been doing it. And I found out that it was, like I said, 2 weeks after we got married. And he was messaging with people that were close to where he worked, because he works about a half hour away. And so I thought, like, oh, fuck, maybe he's met up with these people when he's stayed after school or had like a school of, my mind was like spinning to all these possible scenarios. And, yeah, I don't know if I'll ever know the truth. I would like to think that he was honest with me, but there was a lot of deception that happened. And so I've had to accept the reality that I may not ever know. And that's okay. And there's still things, like I've said a few times, that I'm confused about. Like, what if he just stopped lying? Like, maybe we'd still be married. Who knows? But I can't live in that space. And I'm not going to perpetuate those stories or ideas. Instead, I'm grateful that that all happened, because we were not meant to be. And I don't know all of the lessons that I was supposed to learn or that I'm still learning from it, but I'm here for it. And I want to learn and I want to be better. And, I had my shortcomings in our relationship too. I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, he had dating apps and he potentially cheated and he yelled at me at the swingers club. And, I don't want to present myself in like a victim mentality, but there's that really fine line of, yeah, I was a victim at the same time. And I get to own that and not feel shame in that. There's a lot of terms in the coaching and conscious community that have a lot of negative connotation, and, stories and things surface when you hear the word like narcissist or, gaslighting. So there's certain words and terms that can be triggering to people, and victim is one of them. And yeah, there's just this fine line of accept up the part that you were a victim and be okay with that so you can release the energy and heal and move forward. And then also be willing to take responsibility for the role that you played or I played in those circumstances too, because it's clear to me looking back, my ongoing limiting belief that I will probably forever be working on healing is that I'm not good enough or I'm not lovable. So that's my shit. And I did perpetuate stories and experiences to continue to subscribe to this belief subconsciously that I'm not good enough and that I'm not worthy of love.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do that, and I think just as a human being, I think when we look in the mirror physically, we don't see ourselves sometimes, a lot of the times, and then when we look, internally, we only see the bad parts, and a lot of people never get to a place where they can say it like you have just said it, and that's incredibly sad when you think about your family, friends, relatives, people that aren't here anymore, like how much maybe they've had to go through that and how that affected, them and their lives and people around them. It is this insanely crazy cycle where we just like beat the shit out of ourselves completely. And I think you also said something insanely important, and that is, not that I'm comparing my experience to yours at all, but what I have learned and what works for me is when I'm incredibly hurt, because usually I just allow my toxic masculinity to let it just bounce off, and I'm fine, or whatever. I'm not fine, or whatever shield that is. It's great in the moment, but like those couple years later, it's not so great. And I know that, and I realize that. But there are moments that cut deeper than normal, whether it's a breakup or a death or something, right? And yeah, I hate the victim word, I just like you do. But I will allow myself to bleed a while, a little bit. You know what I mean? And then when I'm like, okay, all right, maybe we could go outside and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Maybe we could like get to the gym eventually. We could crawl there. We could like, maybe we could eat, right? Like when that moment hits, I'm like, okay, the hurting is now gonna slow, and then that's it. I'm done. But to give yourself that time to just be in pain and bleed out all over the fucking place, I think is game changing. Because if you're trying to like hold yourself together, right? It's coming out one way or the other. And so some pain, they're bigger than others,
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say the trick, if you will, is to not get stuck in anything, to just not stay there. And that's why, energetically speaking, we as individuals have masculine and feminine energy within all of us. And so the feminine is the part that is bleeding, that is feeling, that is being with it all. And the masculine is the part that does not allow you to get stuck there. And so it's important for us to know that we have both of those energies to take care of ourselves. And so something that I did would be that I'd put on a timer, like, okay, I'm going to, or I'd give myself the day, like I'm going to eat vegan ice cream and watch romantic movies and cry my eyes out today. And then tomorrow I'm going to wake up and it's going to be different. And so I was giving myself that container, that masculine support that I needed, while also fully surrendering to the feminine side of me that needed to bleed, as you put it. And we're all capable of that. And it's important to know that and to tap into those energies that exist within ourselves. And also friendship is another theme of this show that we're recording. And it's so important to have those friends that can help support you in your process and in your journey too. And that's one of my biggest takeaways from this entire experience of divorce is I realized the friends that are going to be my friends for the rest of my life. Like I maybe lost him and I lost our marriage and our future, but I gained deep, fulfilling, loving friendships and support that I'm going to have forever. And I wouldn't have maybe seen that or recognized it in those people until I went through this experience. And so, leaning on friends, asking for what you need, but also taking care of your own needs too is definitely vital in the healing process.
Yeah, and your friends, speaking for myself as well, like with all my friends who are divorced, like your friends are on the divorce train too. Like they're just, in the bar cart where while you're whatever, like we're all on this fucking divorce train together because it affects a lot of people. At least for a little while, you're all on the train together, and it just feels like people don't recognize that. Like they try to make decisions not for themselves, but more for, well, if I do this, then so and so I can't, and you get caught up in that. I'll just stay. You kind of like find these ways to stay with these people that just like aren't for you. Like once the blinders even come off, you're like, well now like I gotta call a lawyer and my mom's gonna be upset. And it's like, can you give some advice on how to kind of maybe push through some of that once you've gotten through the initial pain and it's time for the divorce? Like, how do you not let things stop you and push away those shitty excuses?
So I will just share from my own personal experience. I leaned on my friends so hard. Like I remember being on the phone with one of my girlfriends and she was looking up, lawyers and resources. And she texts me the number. She's like, we're going to get off the phone and you're going to call this number and I'm going to hold you accountable. And I know it sucks and you can call me immediately afterwards if you need to. But you're doing it. And I was like, okay, like I'll do it. So definitely leaning on community because we're not meant to do anything alone, especially hardship. And this isn't the most sexy advice, but one day at a time, one thing at a time, just one little degree towards where you want to go at a time. And it can be small. Like, one day I'm like, okay, I'm going to start putting his stuff in boxes. I'm going to go through this room, one room at a time, breaking it down into whatever bite-sized pieces you need to, but still taking those steps forward. And taking care of myself was huge, like making sure that I was going to the gym. I purchased a huge personal training package. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the fucking gym. I need someone to hold me accountable so that I continue to go because my health matters. And if I don't feel good in my body, I'm not going to be able to feel good and do everything else. Eating healthy, getting sleep, drinking water, making sure that my primary needs were taken care of so that I could take care of the other things in full spirit, as much full spirit as I could. And again, it's not the sexiest advice, but it's important advice and it gets disregarded. We think, oh, our needs don't matter. My needs don't matter. Like I'll go to the gym later. Like I need to process this or do that. And it's actually like, no, you need to just drink some fucking water and like go to bed.
Yeah. I mean, beautiful, beautiful advice. And like the last piece I want to ask you on the divorce part, because we're going to move into something a little more fun after this, right? But the idea that he decided to like either step outside the little safety bubble you guys had with the non-monogamy, right? Or the experimentation of the ethical non-monogamy. Is that something that helped you? Like, oh, well, he fucked up. He made that decision and cheated, basically. Like, whereas he could have just asked me, and I would have happily expanded the bubble within the confines of what we discussed. Right? Is that something that haunted you or helped you to get, or both, maybe?
It definitely haunted me personally, because the woman that he fell in love with was 25 years old, and I am 35 years old. And so I had a lot of questioning my reality. Like, is this really fucking happening? Is my 40-year-old husband leaving me for a younger woman, like something from a fucking movie? Like, is this real life right now? And it just played into my story of not feeling good enough, pretty enough, whatever stories I was creating for myself to compartmentalize. And so it actually fucked me up for a little bit, but I'm still working through that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Being human is weird. Getting older is weird. Having experiences are also weird. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It takes time.
Yeah. And I feel like the reason I asked that is because I feel like it's something that would haunt you in the beginning and then later would help. So, like, who knows, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's much easier to put blame on another person. Like
Yeah.
it could be so easy for me to be like, fuck him, he fucked up, it's all his fault. But I don't want to do that. I want to be better. I want to take responsibility and heal and do things the right way. So I'm actively processing it to the best of my abilities, and I think that that's part of my message and part of why I want to share these things, even if they're not the sexiest, because it needs to be said.
Totally. Well, I just think all of this is going to make you a better person and a better coach. I mean, your work. Think about how many people are out there that are trapped in a situation that was like yours or worse than yours, and they're haunted as fuck. Like, and they can't get out of it. And here you are, and you're coming out of it. So I just, again, like, can't wait to see what you do with it. And I think it's really, really, really awesome. I do like here at the end. I mean, I want to talk about the hot girl summer. I mean, it's your first hot girl summer in a while, right? So we're going to do the damn thing. Are you already dating? Are you on the apps? Are you hooking up with people? What is going on right now?
Right now, I am dating someone, just dating, not like, boyfriend, girlfriend style dating.
Mm-hmm.
But we've gone on a number of dates, and he is continuing to impress me with his ability to show up. And he approached me the last time I saw him, and he's like, I care about your sexual desires, and I want to make sure that they're met, because he's not as educated in the kink community and the kink dynamics and world as I am. And that could be potentially really intimidating to a man stepping into a dating experience with a woman who's a sex coach, and B, has experience in kink in the kink world. But he handled it so well. He's like, I've been looking stuff up, and I want to have a conversation with you. And I want you to know that I care about your sexual needs and desires, and I want you to feel good. And I was just like, hot damn, okay, there's someone out here who cares about my sexual needs, and the focus isn't all on his sexual needs. And that is so beautiful to experience. And he's paying for everything, which I believe, and this may trigger some people, but I believe that men should pay, especially in the beginning, because women cost money. Like, I get my hair done, my nails done, I get waxed, I have makeup, jewelry, costs money. So I really feel in courtship that it is important for a man to pay. But he's paid for everything. That's not the only hard conversation that he's approached me with. Another example would be, he came to me and said, look, I know that you recently went through a divorce, and I have a blog, and I recently made a blog post about dating post-divorce. And he's like, I read your blog, and I want you to know that I'm open to having any conversations that you may need. Anything that comes up, I want you to feel safe, and just know that I'm here for it. And I was really impressed by that too. So even if things do not work out with this man that I am seeing, I have received such a gift already, because I feel joy and excitement and hope in how I can be treated and in dating in general.
No, that's awesome. Well, and we love to hear different opinions on who should pay, the man, the woman, both, whatever, take turns. Like there's always differing opinions, and I love to get the different ones. Maybe one day I'll make like a compilation of what everyone has said or whatever. So we appreciate that. And as someone who is a kinkster, right? Did you like recommend things for him to read or go watch, or did he sort of go on his own?
He has done whatever he has done on his own so far. My response to what he shared was that I don't want him to feel pressure to learn something quickly or to jump into something that he's not ready for. We have so much time, and I want him to feel safe and comfortable as well when it comes to exploring. And so I just allowed myself to receive that invitation from him. I gave myself space to fully receive that action that he was doing, that invitation that he was giving me. It was such a gift, and I wanted to give space to that and fully receive it. And I just told him we can have a conversation about this whenever we're both ready and allow it to unfold naturally and organically.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Okay, so what's the plan for the rest of the summer? Is it a lot of music festivals? Are we going to sex parties? Are you just kind of like, we'll see what happens? Like, is there a plan? Are we putting together rave outfits? I mean, what does it look like from here to September?
Ooh, yes. Lots of live music shows, some festivals. The guy that I'm dating is actually in a band, so I will definitely be going to a lot of his shows. And definitely rave outfits and vacations and dates. I'm not going to put all of my eggs in one basket. And this man is in support of us doing things the right way. Like, it just feels so organic and so natural with him. And we both believe that it is healthy to date other people, especially in the beginning, because it's either going to confirm, like, oh, yes, I want to be with this person. Like, I choose you, like, I am choosing you, versus just settling because it's there, So I plan on continuing to date. I'm not on any apps right now because I stumbled across my ex-husband on them, and then I hightailed it off of them as fast as I could hit the delete button. But
Yeah.
I am open to dating, excited about dating, and very excited for my summer.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for your summer. And I would love to have you back at the end of the summer to hear about your first hot girl summer. So
Yes, let's do it.
yeah, we can set that up. So final thing, and you are freshly divorced, you were trained, you're still having difficulty, whatever. There's people out there that are freshly divorced, but more importantly, I think for what I'm about to say, there's people out there that maybe got divorced a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, beyond, who can't get back up on the horse, right? Can we put the freshly with the not so fresh, put them all in a basket? And I'm going to ask you, from a personal level, from a professional level, can you give them some advice on how to get out of their head, get out of the pajamas, right? And try dating again? Like, what would your advice be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking. Feel it. Whatever is there when I say those words, feel it. Feel the emotions. I know it sucks, but you got to feel the pain. There's no wiggling around it. There's no amount of TV shows you can watch or food that you can eat or porn that you can watch or any of it that's going to make those feelings go away. The only way to get through them is to feel them fully. And I, fortunately, am very resourced and I know how to feel feelings. It's not something that we're taught. And so if you need support in feeling those feelings, like, okay, great, feel it. That means I'm going to be crying in bed for 2 weeks. Great advice, Serena. You're not alone. And there are resources out there. I think I said this last time on the show, but feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, slide into my DMs. I will happily share resources with you or get on a call with you. I do coach people, so this is very near and dear to my heart, and it would be an honor to hold that space for someone who needs it. So definitely feel it all. It's the only way.
Serena Rose, let's remind them where they can find you online, where they can work with you, where they can slide into your DMs.
Definitely the best place is Instagram. I love IG, even though they can also be fuckers with banning and stuff. But I am spiritual sex coach on Instagram. And then for those who are interested in reading my blog, it is serenarosejarvis.com.
Amazing. You're fucking awesome. I'm so happy you came back, and I look forward to having you back for a third time. I mean, you made a little cameo in the Christmas special, so people, you never know where you're going to see Serena again, but I definitely am looking forward in a couple months. At the end of the summer, I'm going to chase you down. We're going to have to talk post. It'll be the post Hot Girl Summer wrap up show with Serena or something like that.
Yes,
so
let's
we'll have to do it. Yeah, for sure. We have to. Oh my God. Thank you so much for being back.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Talk soon. Thank you to my guest, Serena Rose, for being here on the show again with me and discussing all of the difficult things that can come along with divorce. I'm so looking forward to having her back and hearing about the Hot Girl Summer, all the festivals, all the wildness. If you guys are loving guests like Serena, if you are loving Sex Party, if you want Sex Party merch, if you want to live in a Sex Party world, there's a couple different ways you can show that love, that appreciation, that desire for more. If you're listening on platforms like Apple and Spotify, you could leave a rating, you could leave a review. The most important, though, is that you could subscribe to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, I see you. I love you. I appreciate you. You can subscribe to the channel. That's the most important. You can like the video. You can leave a comment. You don't have to do shit. You can have a Arnold Palmer or an iced tea or something and just relax and enjoy these episodes. But if you do any of these things, I appreciate it. I love you. And I'm seeing it in all of the numbers. Sex Party is growing, y'all. Thank you so, so much. As always, you can catch me in the DMs on Instagram. And I will see you all back here next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter @SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin @DustinRybka.